Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam.
Narayanam Namaskrutyam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswati Vyasam.
Devim Saraswati Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudire.
Tato Jayamudire.
Nashtaprayasu Abhadresu.
Nashtaprayesu Abhadresu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke.
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Reading from chapter 9, titled The Most Confidential Knowledge from Bhagavad Gita, and the verse number is 32. Mam hi partha vyapashritya.
Mam hi partha vyapashritya.
Ye api shuyya papayonaha.
Ye api shuyya papayonaha.
Striya vaishya tatha shudra.
Striyo vaishya tatha shudra.
Te api yanti param gatim.
Te api yanti param gatim.
Mam hi partha vyapashritya.
Mam hi partha vyapashritya.
Ye api shuyya papayonaha.
Ye api shuyya papayonaha.
Triyo vaishyas tatha shudras.
Striyo vaishya tatha shudra.
Te api yanti param gatim.
Te api yanti param gatim.
Any Prabhujis or Matajis?
Mam hi partha vyapashritya.
Mam hi
partha vyapashritya.
Ye api shuhu papayonayah.
ye
Ye api shuyya papayonaha.
Striyo vaishya tatha shudra.
Triyo vaishya tatha sudras.
Te api yanti param gatim.
Te api yanti param gatim.
Mam hi partha vyapastiyah.
Mam hi
Mam
partha
partha
vyapashritya.
vyapashritya.
Ye apayonah.
Ye api shuyya papayonaha.
Triyo vaisya tatha sudras.
Striyo
Triyo
vaishya
vaishya
tatha
tatha
shudra.
sudram.
Te api yanti param gatim.
Te api yanti param gatim.
Mami partha vyapashritya.
Mam hi partha vyapashritya.
Ye api suho papayonaho.
Ye api
Ye
shuhu
api shuyya
papayonayah.
papayonaha.
Triya vaishya tatha shudras.
Striyo
Triyo
vaishya
vaishya
tatha
tatha
shudra.
sudras.
Te api yanti param gatim.
Te
Te
api
api yanti
Yanti
param
param
gatim.
gati.
Mam hi partha vyapashritya.
mam hi
Mam
Mam
hi
hi
partha
partha
vyapashritya.
vyapashritya.
Ye api shu papayonaya.
ye
Ye
api
api
Ye
shuhu
api shuyya
papayonayah.
papayonaha.
Striya vaishyash tatha shudrash.
triyo
Yo
vaisya
vaishya sudha
Tatha
sudras.
shudra.
Te api yanti param gatim.
te
Te
api
api
Te
yanti
api yanti
param
param
gatim.
gatim. Word by word meaning. Mam of me.
Mam of me.
He certainly.
He
He
certainly.
certainly.
Partha, O son of Pritha.
Partha, O son of Partha.
Vyapashritya, particularly taking shelter. Particularly taking shelter.
Particularly taking shelter.
Ye, those who.
ye
Those who.
Api, also.
api
Api, also.
Sure, are.
Sure.
Shu are.
Apayonoya, born of a lower family.
Apayonayah.
Born of a lower family.
Born of a lower family.
Striya, woman.
Striya, woman.
Vaishyas, mercantile
Vaishya.
people.
Mercantile people.
Tatha, also.
Tatha, also.
Sudra, lower class men.
Lower
Shudra.
class.
Man.
Te api, even they.
Te api, even they.
Yanti, go.
Go. Yanti.
Anti.
Param, to the supreme.
Para.
Param to the supreme.
Gatim, destination.
Gati.
Gatim, destination.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. O son of Pritha,
O son of
Son
Pratha,
of Pratha.
those who take shelter in me,
those who take
Those
shelter
who
in
take
me,
shelter in me.
though they are of lower birth,
though they
Though
be
they
of
are of
lower
lower
birth,
birth.
women, Vaishyas, merchants,
Woman, Vaishya.
and Sudras, workers,
and Sudras, workers,
Workers.
can attain the supreme destination.
can
Can
attain the
Attain
supreme destination.
the supreme destination.
Can somebody read the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai?
Yes. It is clearly declared here by the Supreme Lord that in devotional service, there is no distinction between the lower and higher classes of people. In the material conception of life, there are such division. But for a person engaged in transcendental devotional service to the Lord, there are not. Everyone is eligible for the supreme destination. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 2:4-18, it is stated that even the lowest, who are called chandals, dog eaters, can be purified by association with a pure devotee. Therefore, devotional service and the guidance of a pure devotee are so strong that there is no discrimination between the lower and higher classes of men. Anyone can take to it. The most simple man taking shelter of the pure devotee can be purified by proper guidance.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anybody else would like to read this page?
Yes. According to the different modes of material nature, man classified in the mode of goodness, brahmanas. Men are classified in the mode of goodness, brahmanas. The mode of passion, kshatriyas or administrators. The mixed mode of passion and ignorance, vaishyas or merchants. And mode of ignorance, Sudras or worker. Those lower than them are called Chandalas, and they are born in sinful families. Is generally the association of those born in sinful families is not accepted by the higher classes, but the process of devotional service is so strong that the pure devotees of the Supreme Lord can enable people of all the lower classes to attain the highest perfection of life. This is possible only when one takes shelter of Krishna. This is possible. This is possible only when one takes shelter of Krishna. As indicated here by the word Vapasritta, one has to take shelter completely of Krishna. Then one can become much greater than great Gyanis and Yogis.
Thank you so much. Let's all chant together. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jnana Jana Shalakaya चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरो वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखावितांश। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। पाञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण
Jai Shri
चैतन्य
Krishna
प्रभु
Chaitanya
नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण
Hare
कृष्ण
Krishna
कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
Hare Hare
Thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha, where we discuss Bhagavad Gita as it is, taking the top 108 verses as recommended by our acharyas. All the verses are very, very powerful, but due to time, we are discussing the top 108 verses in every Saturday, one after other. Last time we discussed 9.30, and the next important verse in terms of the top 108 verses as described in Prabhupada Gita, the website, is 9.32. So here Krishna is explaining something very esoteric, where it can often be confused and it can be misunderstood. So Krishna here is saying Mami Partha Vipashritya. Vipashritya in this context is taking shelter or taking surrender. And then Krishna goes on to give the different varnashrams, and often the most challenging varnashram where the mode of goodness is difficult to attain, as Srila Prabhupada is beautifully explaining about the of the four uh, varnas. Varna and ashram together makes varnashram, right? Varna is essentially the skills, and ashram is essentially a time period or a phase in your life where you are, right? Varna is the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudras, and the ashrama in this case is Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. So you either fall in one of these X and Y axis. And here Krishna is saying, of the two varnas in this example, like the Vaishya and Sudras, and also Krishna is giving the example of Stris, the ladies or the women. And we'll just try to discuss what are the challenges in these varnas. And then we have to understand in a very contextual manner, as a follow-up subsequently, how Krishna is dovetailing that even the Vaishyas and Sudras and have a path, what to talk of Brahmanas. So it is essentially a collection of a context which Krishna is giving here, where subsequently Krishna is going to say that if these personalities with certain varnas, with certain qualities, with certain modes can be dovetailed into Krishna consciousness, what to talk of Brahmanas. So we're going to discuss this in a very contextual manner without really taking little things and trying to poke, question about whether Krishna is trying to make the Vaishyas or Sudras or women look in a poor light. It is not the intent. The intent is essentially to recognize some of the challenges with these varnas, with these skills these persons carry, and how these challenges can be overcome subsequently, and how Krishna is so merciful when he is explaining that to attain me, only taking shelter of me is important. It doesn't matter where you come from. And here in this specific verse, he is going into the three varnas. So here, if you think about the the Vedic and Upanishadic way of spiritual liberation, which is explained in various Yoga Sutras and various different Vedanta Sutras. So there are 4 qualities of spiritual liberation described in Vedic Upanishads. So first thing you need to carry if you need to attain liberation is Viveka, or you need to have the ability to discriminate between good and bad, ability to discriminate between the right and wrong. And then you need to have Vairagya, or where you need to have a sense of detachment or dispassion, as they call it. And the third thing, you need to have the 6 qualities, which is called Samadhi, Sasta, Sampatti, or the 6 disciplines consisting of Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Tikshita, Shraddha, and Samadhan, in which the mind is progressively withdrawn from the sense objects and focused into pure sense of pure Brahman. And the fourth thing is Mumukshvata, that means of the yearning for liberation. This is exactly what is described in the Vedantas, philosophers, where they go on to say that in order to get moksha, in order to get liberation, you need to have these 4 qualities, which is very difficult in this age of Kali. There is so much of distraction. So it is just not possible. So, and that is where the path of the Mayavadi philosophers, where they end up speaking about these very esoteric, very difficult rituals in this age of Kali, is a challenge. And that is where when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, and the kind of teachings he left behind is so different from what is mentioned here and what Krishna is refuting. So Krishna is saying, in order to attain me, you don't need any of these, which is often prevalent in a very skilled Brahmana who has pure consciousness. He has the knowledge to discriminate between right and wrong, and he, by trying to lead a detachment life, has developed vairagya, and he has control of anger and greed and so many aspects. And then you need to yearn for liberation, and many of the time people want to get attached in this world to various different objects as a personalized manner. So the yearning for liberation is a challenge. So this is where the qualities of spiritual liberation as described by the Mayavadi philosophers has a challenge. And this is where Krishna comes in, and he talks about these lower births. So let's talk about what the lower birth means here. It should not be misconstrued. So whenever a woman is giving birth to a kid, the kid is within the woman for little more or less than 9 months. And there is a sincere attachment. And also woman is often called to help the husband, as we're discussing in the morning now in Srimad Bhagavatam, Monday to Friday, that woman is the Ardhangini, or the better half, as Kashyapa Muni is saying to Diti, as we're discussing 3.14, 3rd canto and 14th chapter in the morning. So as the woman is the better half, there is an element of dependency with men. As the technology has come up, there is a progression towards independence. But essentially, our social structure, where a mother takes the baby in the mother's womb for 9 months, and also as he is the Ardhangini, there is the reference where the ability, the propensity to detachment, the Vairagya angle, which is talked about by the Mayavadi philosophers, is difficult for Matajis. And it is not impossible. It's difficult, but it is impossible. So Krishna is giving that example, that even if it is difficult, even if it's difficult and you take shelter of me, you can attain me. So how beautiful this example is. And then Vaishyas who have attachment to money, who have attachment to business, and they end up taking business life, and then they gather money. So for them, trying to get away from the concept of gaining money, and as Srila Prabhupada goes on to say, that they are the mixture of passion and ignorance. And it is very difficult when a person is with passion and ignorance. But that doesn't mean a person cannot transcend from a Vaishya or a merchant or a mercantile profession to a Brahminical, more knowledgeable knowledge acquisition process. It is not impossible. But if a person through his association day-to-day life goes on to always crave for money and multiply money through the business dealings he ends up doing, then it is very difficult for him to spend time in the mode of goodness. But Krishna has a solution for everything, and here he is presenting that. And Sudras do not even have the mode of passion; they have mode of ignorance all the time. When they're constantly serving others, they are constantly following the orders of others. They do not have the capability to gather knowledge to the degree others have. But that doesn't prevent them from doing. And there are wonderful examples how, in association with devotees, these personalities have changed. And that is the reason why there is nothing to feel sad about, because Krishna is giving a very pure understanding. And here we give or we hear the example of a dacoit who was Ratnakar. He was killing everybody, he was troubling everybody. Then once Narad Muni was going in the same path, and Ratnakar started troubling Narad Muni. And then Narad Muni asked, "Why are you troubling this?" He says, "This is my right, because I kill people, I trouble people, and that's how I lead my life. That's how I feed my family." Then Narad Muni asked, "Are those family members who are part and parcel, and you claim that you deal with them, are they going to take your bad karma? When you're basically killing people, you are incurring bad karma. Are they going to take a portion of your bad karma to their subsequent lives? Do you know if they would take it?" Then Ratnakar constantly asked, "Yes, they will." So Narad Muni said, "Why don't you go and ask?" So he went to his family, and he asked his wife, he asked his kids, he asked his relatives that, "Hey, will you take my bad karma if at all I incur any sin by virtue of feeding you, by virtue of acquiring wealth, because of which I'm basically maintaining you?" They said, "No, dad, no, husband, I'm not going to take your karma, because we all deal with incurring sins when we do something wrong, and we incur pious credits when you do something right." And so Ratnakar was so surprised, he was shocked. He comes back to Narad Muni, and Narad Muni says, "Yes." He fell on the feet of Narad Muni and said, "Munivar, nobody is willing to take my bad karma. What do I do?" Then Narad Muni said, "Why don't you utter this word? The power of Ram is very powerful, so utter the word Ram." And he was so fallen, he couldn't utter the word Ram, Ram, Ram. Then Narad Muni said, "You are in this profession where you're killing everybody, so why don't you utter Mara, 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 Mara?" So when you utter Mara, 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 then Rama comes out of it. So utter Mara, then he started chanting Mara, Mara, and then he went on to, in his subsequent life, he went on, he grew into, Valmiki, who wrote Ramayana. So the pure association of a pure devotee can change a Shudra who was servicing, who was basically killing people and leading his day-to-day life. And Putana, he was killing kids. He was giving poison from the breast to other kids. And when he come in contact with Krishna, as she came with a intent to be a mother, Krishna fulfilled her desire to be a mother, and then Krishna liberated her. So the desire to associate, these are so esoteric, as Srila Prabhupada goes on to say, that this association is so powerful, it doesn't matter where you're born from, what kind of life or what kind of um, orientation you're from. You can be transcended. Because of the higher taste, you can transcend from any strata or any varna. So, and then when you think about this verse, so without really going a lot can be spoken here. So the Vedanta philosophers have said in order to get moksha, one is to take sannyas. So when you talk about those four things we discussed last page, they essentially, when you're talking about controlling everything, then ability to desire for moksha, essentially you are saying you have to take sannyas. You have to live differently. You have to have a strong detachment from the family life. But that was not said by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Grihe thake, vane thake, sada hari boleda. That means whenever you are at home, whether you are in the forest, always repeat the names of Krishna, which is nothing but the chanting of the holy name. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy is totally opposite in the context that in order to get liberation, forget about liberation. Our desire is not liberation. Our liberate is to serve, so that we start loving the love, have the love for Godhead, which we have been bereft of for so long time. Our intent is to start loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which we have forgotten. And we really do not have to take sannyas to start loving having the love for Godhead. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 500 years ago said, you don't have to leave your house. Wherever you are, grihe thako, wherever, if you're all you are in a house, or vane thako, if you are in the vana or forest, sada hari bole thako. That means just utter the names of the Lord. You start having love for him. Then you yearn to serve. Forget about all those four paths of liberation. You will get liberated right here in this life with a love for Godhead. So the love is the essence, not the crude way to get detachment from everything by trying to follow a process which has a lot of caste angle to it, as Srila Prabhupada goes on to say that this varnashram, which was created by Krishna, Chatur Varna Maya Shrishtam. Krishna says, these four varnas have come from me. I created this. But what people made out of this? This varnashram, this beautiful varnashram, they made a caste system, which was not the intent of varnashram to start with. So here Krishna says very nicely in another verse, 14.26, Mamchaya vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatityantam brahma bhuyaya kalpate. That means one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the mode of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. That means once you start doing devotional service, see, this Brahman is not a thing which is given to you by birth. You cannot end up doing anything and become a Brahman just because you are born in a Brahmanical family. You suppose a person who is a police officer, his son, just because he's son of a police officer, cannot be certain that he will be a police officer. A person who is the son of a high court judge cannot be a high court judge after the father high court judge leaves his body. It's not like that. It is a skill-based thing. Varna ashram. Varna is a skill-based thing. You cannot. Brahmana is a skill-based thing. Just because you are born from a Brahminical family doesn't give you the warranty and guarantee to be a Brahmana in your subsequent life. You need to work towards it. You need to earn it. You need to yearn for it. So the Brahmana by birth is not Brahmana. Brahmana by deeds is Brahmana, which is exactly what is professed by Srila Prabhupada when he realized that a person who can detach himself from various food habits, can live in a temple, lead a austere life, chant the holy name, read the scriptures, have the capability of becoming a Brahman, whether it is a white body or black bodied or brown bodied or any such body, because it is not a birthright. And that is where Srila Prabhupada and Swayam Purna Purushottam Krishna is telling to Arjuna referring to as Pritha, that even these lower burners in that context can come to me just by pure surrender. And there is no dearth of somebody, or there is no lack of a person giving love to me and doing devotional service. And I do not have the ritualistic process to stop you just because you are from a lower birth or from a challenging life because of the attachment you have. Because often you'll see that mothers have a very, very strong attachment to the kid because the mothers have taken the pain of carrying the baby. So that's the reason why Krishna is referring here. Even if you have so many challenges, just by surrendering, we have so many wonderful devotees who are Matajis, and there is Mirabai. There is so many in our movement where in our ISKCON we have Yamuna Devi, Malati Mataji, who have transcended this bodily platform and have detached themselves and went on to become some of the top devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this verse is essentially saying that if the only qualification which is needed is taking shelter or surrender, and there is no other qualification, any varna, any bodily platform is not a restriction in making you grow in Krishna consciousness. So everybody is welcome. So, and we can go on and on, but what a verse to really reflect on, where Krishna is giving this very powerful message, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming ahead and kind of refuting what the Vedanta philosophers have said thousands and thousands of years ago, because it has been misused by the casteist social structures. And the Varnashram is not a caste product, it's essentially a way to divide people based on skill. Because whenever you have in your office, there will be a certain group of people who will be programming, there will be a certain group of people who will be designing. It is essentially a skill-based thing. When a programmer has some experience, he transcends into becoming a designer, and from a designer, he transcends to become either to a manager or to an architect. And this is a process which is there in every organization, and our spiritual organization is no different in that context, that with more devotional service, you know how to control anger. Whenever you're doing a service, whether you're doing something in Govinda or doing something in the temple, you develop that control, how to develop collectively within the devotees, you develop that qualities, and eventually you become a better person, where you start loving the Lord and his devotees, and you start caring for the devotees, and when devotees are cared, Krishna is mostly pleased. So this devotional service is not a process, not a child project, creative process where at a very child age you can do something. It's a way of life. It's something we live our life on. It's not something which you really build on in a given time, and then you transcend within 2 years and you become a Mahatma. It's not. Mahatma is somebody who is Maha, who has a great soul, where you have the control. All these qualities, what we talked about, stays. Whenever you may not have joined Krishna consciousness, you may not have good control of all this, but as progressively you mix with devotees, associated devotees, you see the change right here in this life. And that is exactly what Krishna consciousness is all about. And Krishna is explaining so beautifully, giving that assurance that there is no prior criteria needed, and ability to surrender is the only criteria. So with that, I'd like to end here. We can go on and on, but I'd like to hear some discussion, questions, comments, reflections from you on this verse. And with that, I'd like to end here. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. This is really very powerful verse, and I wish this message should be passed to the people in the lower class, so that this because in the current structure, some of the people are kept away from the religious places, and so they are not doing the devotional service, and sometimes they also do convert to other religions. So this is really powerful message and should be passed somehow, I wish, so that they should know that Bhagavad Gita says this. Thank you.
Exactly. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for echoing this message. The reason why people take to caste conversion is, as you rightly said, they have not read the scriptures. So there is a beautiful video I was reading today where Srila Prabhupada is saying that when a person has not read the scriptures, he is very ignorant. When a person is ignorant, he can go and spread the ignorance to others. And this world is full of ignorant people, and they will take onto it. Somebody will latch onto it. And that's the reason why that's so. And you mentioned about conversion. And I was talking to a sannyasi in our generation that quite a lot of higher society people in the Sanatan Dharma are not very proud of the heritage. They think this is a myth. They think Ramji is a myth. This monkeys who helped Ramji is a myth. That's why everything Ramayana, Mahabharata, it's often called, it's a mythological scripture. It's not a myth actually. These things happened, and if you've gone to various different places in Dwarka, various different dhams in Jagannath Puri, where Jesus Christ came 2000 years ago, and there are so many. So these things happened for a fact. These things of the yuga cycles, what is written in scriptures, the Sarga Visarga, which is written in Srimad Bhagavatam, before Kali Yuga, there was Dwapar, then before that there was Treta, and there was Satya, and there are references to all these yugas in Srimad Bhagavatam. These things are written, and if we do not read our own scriptures, we lose interest. See, sometimes what happens is you have a house in a village or a town, right? You have a big house. You have a sense of uh, deep-rooted value built into your upper generations. So when the feeling is deep-rooted, then you take time to protect it. Now that feeling is not there. People do not feel that Ramji was a hero actually. The people who worked for a hero like Hanumanji or Angad, they could go and burn Lanka with no time. They can really crush the enemy in no time. But they left the big cause for their master. There is a big thing which is spoken, but people do not understand. So when we lose faith in our deep-rooted values, what you exactly said, the conversion happens. So that's the reason why we have to be proud in the right sense about our spiritual values. What happened in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, then we will have deep-rooted value, and then we'll not think about conversion. People do not have faith, and that's why. So there are two things you said, Prabhu, about why conversion is happening, because of pure lack of knowledge, which is intertwined. So more and more we spread this, we speak to them. See, when Srila Prabhupada said, whenever a Christian joins a Christian, he doesn't convert, he becomes a better Christian. When a person, so likewise, our thought process is essentially to explain what is there in the scriptures, which are written thousands and thousands of years ago, so that we bring the right context to the people. And that's why it is said, Dharma tu Shakshat Bhagavat Pranita. That means what is written in scriptures, what is decided, what is exhibited by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is dharma. So we cannot have our own rationalization in our mind. And we said, Krishna stole butter, so he was a thief, and because he's a thief, he is not right. How can he profess? So that understanding has to be cut, because dharman to sakshat bhagavat pranita. So whatever Lord exhibits in this world, that is dharma. and the right and wrong is around that, not what kind of philosophy, not kind of right and wrong we got built up with. So I just want to add that. So thank you so much for your comment, Pradeep Prabhu, and what a verse. Truly, this is a very, very powerful verse to meditate on. Any other comments or questions?
Prabhuji, one question I have. In fact, I have one doubt. So in Vaishnav Sampradaya, I don't know whether it has been written in scriptures that women, especially, I know that they are, part of men's. I mean, they're very powerful as part of Vaishnav. But the temple, the deity worship, whether in scripture it has been allowed for women, because in our temples, most of the ISKCON temples I have seen, okay, deity worship has been done by women. So is it something permitted?
A very nice question, Prabhu. So the question is, deity worship, the number one aspect which is written in scriptures is socha, which is cleanliness, because cleanliness is next to godliness, and punctuality. So in our deity worship, Krishna is a person, and we're giving service to Krishna so that he is given bhoga, he is offered bath, the Pancharatrika Vidhi is followed. So the only criteria for this, nowhere in the scripture it is mentioned that woman is not allowed, but it is, so there is a principle in deity worship. The main principle of deity worship, we have a ISKCON deity worship ministry, and the principle they have laid out is cleanliness is next to godliness. So as long as a person is clean, he can do it. So because of some aspects, sometimes some people may not be clean, for example, and at that time, you're right, it is not allowed. But as long as a person is clean, the socha angle is followed, then there is no challenge in that context. So in this earlier, what was happening was women in the family were so busy right from the morning because at the time there was no gas, there was no electricity. So the entire day was spent with the woman taking care of the household chores. But as the technology has improved, then people have enough time relieved from them to do deity worship. So the essence which is laid out is the cleanliness has to be followed. So the cleanliness, so question becomes, what kind of cleanliness? Cleanliness from a bodily perspective, cleanliness from a mind perspective. So all that aspect is taken into consideration when somebody is allowed and not allowed. And as long as those principles are followed and they have enough time to take care of the family and household chores, then it is not banned or barred in any form or shape. Did that answer your question, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you for answering, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Any other comments or questions? We have some new devotees today. So thank you all for joining. We have a systematic study of Bhagavad Gita. We take sloka by sloka and discuss it every day, every Saturday at 7:30. So if I see some new devotees, I would like to welcome all of them with loud Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol.
If anybody would like to sort of unmute and introduce themselves, as we have come to the end of the class, we definitely can do that. We have Rohit Prabhu and we have another Prabhu or Mataji who has joined the call. So welcome all of you, and please join every Saturday. It will be the same link. I will send out the slokas in advance so that we can prep ourselves and discuss this. This is, as you know, Bhagavad Gita is a question and answer between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his greatest friend Arjuna. So this can only be understood with discussion, with dialogue. That's why Bhagavad Gita is not a teaching in that sense. Srila Prabhupada asked us not to read his books, but to study his books. So we all are in this process of studying. We all are at a different level in understanding. There are many people who are at a much higher level than all of us. and we take some of the thoughts from them and we try to discuss so that it becomes clear in our mind. So any other comments or questions you may have, or comments or reflections? I think everyone is quiet today. Anybody would like to unmute and ask a question or comment?
Thank you, Prabhuji. After a long time, I'm joining. The class was really good. And it had a lot of extra points also. So that was really more informative, I would say, like in between points from Bhagavatam also was really informative. That's the compliment I'll give, not comment, for this class. Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. I'll try my best to join upcoming classes also.
Thank you, Mataji, for joining. We were missing you. We were inquiring what happened. I'm sure your family is doing great. We welcomed your new member into your family sometime back, but then you got busy, of course. But hope to get your association more and more in the coming Saturdays.
Yes, Prabhuji, I need all your blessings to have no hindrance or hindrance due to forgetfulness also in joining the Bhakti Riksha. That is the most important hindrance that I have. I mean, not important, unstoppable hindrance, I would say, where I forget to keep tuned in. So that is the thing.
We'll definitely inform as often as we can, Mataji. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. Any other comments? We have Rohit Prabhu, we have Santa Mataji. Any comments, questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. This verse is generally considered a bit controversial verse, so I appreciate how you explained what it actually means. So that was something I enjoyed. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu, and you're right. Actually, there is a lot of misinformation about this verse, where people have challenged, even forget about our gurus. People have challenged Krishna, and but Krishna's verse, if you see, this 700 verses, Krishna has given cross-reference between his verses. Like you'll see in the upcoming verses, where how he's saying, if Matajis, the Vaishyas and Sudras who have challenges can really dovetail into becoming great sadhakas, what to talk of Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. So that's how it should be understood. And we are up for exciting times when we'll go to subsequent verses 34, 36. There is more deep discussion around how Krishna is explaining. So if you really look from a very as most of the people, they look at this verse and Krishna said this, but they do not look at the overall thing. More like if they look at a blind man looking at the tail of a elephant, they think it is a snake, but actually it is not. So that's the excitement we are getting into, because this is the confidential knowledge chapter where Krishna is giving very guhyatam knowledge, very very hidden things. And this chapter 9, that's why very interesting, because Krishna is giving all the secrets, and that's why chapter 9 is right in the middle of Bhagavad Gita. Of the 18th chapter, 9 is right in the middle. So it is all secrets are right there, and we just have to take the secret and put it in our life in the right way. So thank you for sharing your comment. Prabhuji, if you are not in our Bhakti Vriksha WhatsApp group, we can add you, or you can share the phone number. We can add you, or however you want to. If you are already there, then it's fine.
Sure, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. I just wanted to add something here. This verse is very beautiful. It says about the three, like Omen, Vaishya, and the Sudras can attend. There is a beautiful verse parallel to this in Srimad Bhagavatam also, where the question is how to attend Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. The answer is, you have to have that qualification that Hanuman has, Jatayu has, Gajendra has, Sampati has, and Garudahas. Like, so it's basically it gives 9 and 10 names who are neither on these three categories. They are even considered to be lower in birth. So only the qualification is bhakti and the surrender to Krishna. That is the only criteria. So just wanted to add in along with this verse. I think it is going over there. So thought of sharing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hanuman was a monkey and Jatayu was a bird. And they lead a very challenging life if you think about their lifestyle. And so they are not even at the same level as a Vaishya or Sudra, but still they could attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So thank you for adding that. So we have some upcoming events. We have Nrsimha Chaturdasi coming up in 3 weeks' time. The flyer will go out. And when we talk about Nrsimhadev, you think about Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was born to a Rakshasa family. Prahlad. So that's the reason why we have to be very excited about the event, or the festival, Nrsimha Chaturdasi, where Lord is so merciful for his devotees. He doesn't need a mother's womb to come out. He can come out from anywhere and everywhere. He can come out from the water. He can come out as a boar. And in this, he came out from a pillar. And this is a very powerful festival for all of us to meditate that Krishna consciousness doesn't need any prior surname or prior prefix in our lives. It doesn't need anything. Anybody and everybody can take to Krishna consciousness. Prahlad Maharaj was born to a Rakshasa family, and what a devotee he is. So in order to really demonstrate that, the Supreme Personality of Godhead came out in a half lion, half man form. And it is a festival which really, gives us goosebumps when you think about how Krishna can be so merciful. So we're going to celebrate, we're going to get into that mood of celebrating this very, very powerful, not through just by attending the festival, it is through the mood of serving, through the mood of discussion, and our Bhakti Brikshas, we will have, some reference so that we get into the wavelength of Nrsimha Chaturdasi, and then we're going to have a month of celebration of Lord Jagannath festivals. We will have Snan Yatra, Rath Yatra, and so many yatras. When Lord just not comes out of the pillar, he goes out on a yatra. So it's a very, very exciting times for all of us to mingle in this Krishna consciousness activities in the next 2-3 months. Actually, every 12 months is a festival, but we have some very exciting festivals. So that's coming up. If there is no other question or comment, I would like to end here by paying obeisances at the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas by saying Vancha kalpataru kripa sindhu vacha patitanam pavnebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namo. Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Granth Raj Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.